Lost some. Okay, hello everyone. This is Stuart Fischman. This is the Web Yeshiva, and this is our talk about Rachtzah, washing our hands before we eat the matzah. I know there's some people who are having trouble getting into the class, and it's all being recorded. So if you come in late, you can catch the beginning anyway. Just catch it on the archives. It's interesting that in the flyer for the course, so to speak, it was this, whoever composed this, what makes it so significant that the Seder warranted being highlighted along things like matzah and maror? And the answer to the question is it isn't significant. It's kind of funny that they chose to phrase it this way, because the Natilat Yadayim that we're going to do at the Seder is the exact same Natilat Yadayim that you did this morning if you had a bagel with cream cheese for breakfast. Natilat Yadayim is Natilat Yadayim, and that's what we're going to talk about. Now, it's true that there are simanim for the Seder, Rachtzah figures, and so just to give this a minute of, just to talk about this, about 30 years ago, a great, great gadol passed away. His name was Rav Menachem Kasher. There are no pictures of him. Usually most of these gadolim, they get their pictures taken, go to Google Images, you'll find 1,000 pictures of Rav Ovadia Yosef Zatzal, 1,000 pictures of Moshe Feinstein Zatzal. This is the only picture I could find of Rav Menachem Kasher, which is from a very tiny Wikipedia article. The man was a humongous Talmud Chacham. He wrote encyclopedic works. He was truly an encyclopedist. His most famous work is called Torah Shlema, and he passed away in the middle. His son-in-law, I think, finished a few volumes, and no one could finish it. He wanted to write on a set of chumashim that's every single drasha on every single pasuk in the Torah. Everything. He wanted, like all of Torah Shabbal Peh, based on chumashim in like one set of books. And it's an amazing, he wrote essays on the most amazing things. Man had just tremendous knowledge. And he also wrote a Haggadah. It's an encyclopedic Haggadah. It's called Haggadah Shlema. Okay. You can find this in the bookstores. I very rarely plug Svarim. You want to buy it, you buy it. You don't want to buy it, you don't buy it. There are lots of Haggadahs out there, but you should know it exists, the Haggadah Shlema, because it's remarkable. It is remarkable how much knowledge he had about the Haggadah. And just about Rachtzah, he examines everything. And like he has pages just on the famous song that every Jewish child learns in kindergarten or first grade, the Simanei HaSeder. Kadesh, Orchatz, Karpas, Yachatz, Magid, Rachtzah, Motzi, Matzah. And like here he has it called Rachatz. He doesn't call it Rachtzah. Why? And here's a footnote. Okay? He says in the manuscripts it's Rachtzah, what we called it here. But he quotes a famous grammarian called Rav Zev Heidenheim corrected it based on grammatic. I mean, he writes about everything. Where did this come from? Okay? And he traces everything. Yesh machasimo tola Rashi. Some people say Rashi composed this limerick. Okay? And he says this is what he calls the Simanish. This is the most common outline for a Seder. He says even the Teimanim have it, even the Sephardic Jews and the Romanian Jews have it. Some people say it's from Rashi. He quotes Shadal, or Shmuel David Lotsato was an Italian scholar of the 19th century who examined these sort of things. He says he found a manuscript that's from a disciple of Maharil who lived in the 15th century in what's called Moravia, someplace in the Czech Republic. He examines everything. Why do we have it? So, I mean, why do we need this little limerick? He has a theory. The Chachamim took an interest in making sure that the families and the head of the family who conducts the Seder, he shouldn't skip any steps. And that's why we have a little limerick that everybody sings, Kadesh Rachatz, Karpas Yachatz, and Magid Rachtzah. So it's not that Rachtzah of Pesach is different than the Rachtzah of the regular year. It's just it's an important step, and like you could see it, like you start with Kiddush, and you have Orchatz, you break the matzah, you hide the Afikoman, Magid is long. You can read the entire Haggadah. Everybody's excited. Ooh, where's the matzah? There's the meal. There's soup. There's matzah balls if you eat matzah shruya. And like you might forget to do Netilat Yadayim. So Rachatz, even though we do it every day, we do Netilat Yadayim, right? Before we eat bread, we do Netilat Yadayim. But on Pesach, everybody's so eager to get to know if you like the matzah. If you don't like the matzah, well, you're not in a hurry to get to the matzah. But certainly you want Shulchan Orech, you want the meal. So they're afraid that you'd skip Netilat Yadayim, so they put it there. It's like Barech. They also put in Birkat HaMazon, even though every day we say Birkat HaMazon. The Seder, they want to make sure that everything gets done like a checklist. So Rachatz is on the checklist. And since we're going to talk about Netilat Yadayim, why is it called Netilat Yadayim? It's like we're washing our hands. So, of course, Rav Menachem Kasher, he writes about that also. It's a strange bracha. Okay? We're washing our hands. Netilat Yadayim it's a strange verb. Litol can mean to take or to raise up. Why don't we call it Rachtzat Yadayim or Shtifat Yadayim? It's just right because that's what we're doing. So he talks about he goes through everything. Okay? And he says, I skipped the page, previous page. There we go. Okay. Pianal nirali leve'er tam shitnu chachamim levrecha al netilat yadayim lo kalishna dikra b'chitzat yadayim or shkir v'rachatzu yadayim or shtifat yadayim yadav lo shutaf b'mayim. In Tanakh, in Hebrew, to this day, when you wash something, you either say Rachtzah, it's like intense washing, or rinsing, which is what most people say, Lishtof Yadayim. Okay, if your hands are dirty, we say Lishtof et Yadayim here in Israel. Where'd they get this verb Netilah from? It's a strange verb. Bachur Davka Mevilan Dita, Shortai Mashkatav Harav. That means to raise your hands up. And indeed, there's some people actually say this pasuk of Suyidechem Kodesh. Okay? So, why is this? So he has an answer. He said there's a Gemara in Masechet Menachot that says if we're doing something that's not uniquely Jewish, but non-Jews do it also, then we don't make a bracha on it. That's why he quotes Rishonim who say, why don't we make a bracha when we give tzedakah? It's a very good question. Right? I'm doing a mitzvah. Whether I'm giving money to a poor person who comes to my door, or I'm making out a check to a yeshiva or to a synagogue, I don't make a bracha. Why don't I make a bracha on tzedakah? Right? Or when I get up for an elderly person on the bus. Why don't we make a bracha on those mitzvot? Because non-Jews also do this. We don't have a monopoly on charity. We don't have a monopoly on honoring our parents. And we don't have a monopoly on honoring the elderly. So there's no kedusha in it because I can't. This act, although it's a mitzvah, and when we do it, it is a mitzvah. All right, we do because Hashem commanded us, but it doesn't set us apart. A mitzvah that doesn't set us apart, that everybody else is doing, I don't say a bracha on it because it does. Because it's because by the person who observes it, if I don't know, if an alien from a foreign galaxy would come down to Earth and he'd be interested. So let's say he's a Martian anthropologist or a Martian sociologist. He'll come look at Jewish people. He'll come look at Hindu people. He'll see that Jews give charity, Hindus give charity. There's nothing distinctive vis-a-vis charity that would separate Jews from Hindus. So on acts like that, we don't. On those mitzvot, we don't say brachot, and that's why now everybody washes their hands when their hands are dirty. So I wash my hands. The Hindu person washes his hands. We're both washing our hands. So to say a bracha al rechitzat yadayim, it wouldn't fit because I'm not making bracha al netinat tzedakah. Oh, Miss Yavitz, you joined us. You're able to get in now, I see. Okay. Ezra, good job. So I'm sorry we didn't wait for you to start, Miss Yavitz, but it's on the archives. And so we're talking about Netilat Yadayim, and that's where we don't make a bracha on the Al Rechitzat Yadayim because non-Jews wash their hands. Al Shtifat Yadayim, non-Jews rinse their hands. But nobody is doing Netilat Yadayim according to the rules of halacha. And that's why they gave it this verb. Okay? Any questions? You can ask questions if you want. Any questions? No? Okay. So that after this little introduction of about what Netilat Yadayim is, we're going to talk about the halachot of Netilat Yadayim. And I posted these pages on the website in case you want to review them or go over them. Okay. So here we go. The part of the Seder known as Rachtzah, again, it's not unique to the Seder. There's no difference between the Tilat Yadayim of the Seder and the Tilat Yadayim that you make if you're eating a hamburger on Yom Ha'atzmaut or wherever, bagel and lox. We do Netilat Yadayim. So we're going to study the halachot of Netilat Yadayim, and to show again, as Rav Menachem Kasher said, we do Netilat Yadayim. It's not washing our hands. We don't use soap and water. I don't just put my hands under the faucet and scrub and scrub and scrub. And many people, you go to Judaica stores, they have special cups. In Hebrew, they're called natlanim, and they have two handles. Why do they have two handles? I'm not sure if I got the right answer, but we'll see by the end, by 10 o'clock, why I think there's a reason, according to halacha, that they should have two handles. Okay, so we need some basic ideas on the Netilat Yadayim. The Netilat Yadayim was introduced in order to prevent people who are tamei from touching kodshim and taros. Really, the only way and Minat Torah, for a person who's Tamei Minat Torah to become Tahor, was to immerse himself or herself in a mikvah. If a person came in contact with a dead person after the para aduma, which is a whole other thing, that person would go to the mikvah. If a person came in contact, touched the dead animal's carcass, go to mikvah. Right? You go to mikvah. And the mikvah has a certain minimum volume of water. It's 40 sa'ah, which is about 750 liters of water. And Chazal made a rule of yadayim. Even if a person was tahor, in other words, you went to mikvah, okay? So you went to a levaya, You had the para aduma, you waited a week, you went to mikvah. The next day, you're tahor, and you're a kohen, and you want to eat your truma. People bring you their truma. Or you're not a kohen, you're Yisrael, and you're making dough. The mitzvah of hafrashas challah was to take off a piece of dough and give it to the kohen. That dough was like truma, and and the kohen's going to eat that. He's going to make himself a cookie. He has to do netilat yadayim. There's a din rabbanan that hands are assumed to be tameh. There's a concept yadayim askaniyot hein. Your hands are busy. You're touching things. Who knows what you're touching? And to keep you alert, we do netilat yadayim. And to this day, that even though there's no more Tumen Tara, unfortunately, because we don't have paraduma, that halacha stayed. That before we eat bread, we do netilat yadayim, and the volume of that requires a certain minimum quantity of water, a revi'it. A revi'it is, according to Chaim Noah, 86 cc's. According to the Chazon Ish, it's 150 cc's. I wish I knew metric. I don't know metric that well. It's not a lot of water, but there's a minimum. And there's a masechet called Yadayim. Meir v'it, namely Yadayim achad af l'shnayim. It's a puzzling Mishnah. This quantity of water, or v'it, can be used for one person's hands, or even two persons' hands. And this already is our first puzzle, because normally you can't share a halachic quantity. For example, come the Seder, everybody has to eat a kazayit of matzah. I can't share my kazayit of matzah with someone. I can't say, okay, I'll eat a half a kazayit and you eat a half a kazayit. It doesn't work that way. We each have to eat a kazayit. If it requires a revi'it of water to make my hands tahor, well, how can I use a half a revi'it and then give you a half a revi'it? We didn't have the minimum quantity. It's a puzzling Mishnah. So there are a lot of ideas what this Mishnah means. But this evening, we're going to look at the Rambam. We're working off the Rambam tonight. There are other Rishonim. But again, we're working off the Rambam today. Okay, okay, when we do the Tilat Yadayim, most of us wash each hand twice. That's how most people do it. Some people do it 3 times for other reasons. I'm not going into the three times washing. Those are other issues. They're just complex. Most people do 2 times on each hand. There's the first pour of water and the second pour of water. And just stay with me like this, okay? I need a revi'it of water to make my hands pure, okay? So if my hands were impure, because that's what we're talking about tahara. My hands were impure. That first pour of water goes over my hands. Isn't that water impure now? Before I can touch the truma, I have to rinse off the impure water. So the first water, let's call it the water of purity, that is the halachically significant water, and it has a shear, a minimum quantity called a revi'it. Now I have to rinse it off. That's called mayim shniyim, and that the Rambam says doesn't need a shear. That I could share with someone. In the old days, I get the impression, now Baruch Hashem, we have running water. But in Israel, most places, let's stick to Israel. Right now it's the rain. Baruch Hashem, it's raining now. But come August in Israel, in September, how much water was there in the well? They had to conserve water. I've had the privilege of going to Uganda to visit the Jewish communities there, and there I really learned to appreciate water because no one there has running water. The people live in villages, and all day long there's like an army of children going back and forth, hauling these jugs of water back to the stream and back home, to the stream and back home, to the stream and back home. And what we call quote unquote civilized societies, we take water for granted, but we shouldn't. They conserved water. So if two people wanted to eat bread, each one of them would have that revi'it for themselves, pour one each hand, and then they could share a revi'it of water. It just turns off the quote unquote impure water. That's the water that doesn't need a shear, okay? So there's the water that brings purity. That's a shear of a revi'it. And then there's the second water, just turns off the first water. That could be any quantity that you want. You could even share a revi'it. Okay? So that's Mayim Rishonim and Mayim Shniyim. The first water, which conveys purity. The second water, Shniyim, rinses off the water. And there's a Mishnah that just makes this clear. Natal Rishonim l'makom echad, l'shnim l'makom acher. Okay, so you did netilat yadayim, you poured water on your hands, the first pour, let's say in one corner of the house, and the water made a puddle on the floor. Then you walked to another corner of the house and rinsed off that first water with the second water. Okay? Nafal kiko shel truma harishonim tamei. And then someone dropped the loaf of bread. If you dropped into that first puddle, which has the first poured water, well, that water is impure because that's the water that purified your hands. That truma is now tamei. You have to burn it. You can't eat it. Al shniyim tahor. But if you drop the loaf of truma bread into the second puddle, which is only the rinsing water, the truma is fine. It's a little damp, but it's not tamei. If you didn't let both pours of water in the same corner of the house, and then the loaf of bread falls into it, well, that water, of course, is tamei, and your truma is tamei. Now, the Mishnah never says why you need shniyim. It's just taken for granted by the Rambam. Okay? The first water. Okay. Same with this nomen and quantum. Yes, that is true, Ms. Job, precisely. The second water is purely practical. It has no halachic significance, per se. It's just getting rid of the tamei water. Okay? Yes. That's very true. Okay. All right. Is someone talking? I hear a voice somewhere.
All right, Boaz, calm down.
Who's Boaz? Let's just forget that. Okay. Okay, so you got two types of water. Now, so Chazal rule, again, this is a rule of Chazal, it's a Rabbanan, that everybody's hands are tamei. You have to purify them before you eat bread. Okay, and the Rambam says, Mayim Rishonim purify the hands. The second water washes off the impure water. Okay, so then we can go on. And there's another Mishnah, which is a little bit more technical. Chazal were gozer tuma on hands. If a person did not do netilat yadayim and touch truma, it's very, very bad. The truma is now invalid, can't be eaten. Chazal, let's say, never made a rule about elbows. Okay? If I would take my elbow and grab a loaf of bread and try and eat it like this, I wouldn't have to do the netilat elbow. There's no tumah on elbows. Okay? There's tumah on hands. Now, you'll see a lot of people, there's a thing, after they do netilat yadayim, they hold their hands up. That's literally netilat yadayim. It sort of comes from this Mishnah, okay? The whole notion of Tuma and Tara, the Chazal decreed, is on hands. Perek means the wrist, up to the wrist. Now, Perek, I poured the first pouring of water on my hands up to my wrist. And And for some reason, I poured the second pouring on my forearm, and I let that water just run down over my hands. You're good, because there's no tumah in my arm. The tumah is only in my hand. So if I pour water on my arm, it's still tahor. It's going to run down my arm onto my hands, get rid of the first pouring of water that's still in my hands. Not my hands. I'm good to go. I can eat truma. Okay? Now, I thought we should name about the shneim chutzah perkwazul yad tme'ah. But this is like tricky, all right? If I did both, the first one my hands, and then it went back to my hands, then they're tameh. Okay? The purification, and I want to do the whole mission because I want to get to the end. The whole point is that tumah is only on hands. Chazal never made a din about my forearms. There's nothing about, for example, my mouth. Okay? If I pick up bread with my hands, I have to natilat yadayim. But let's say, I don't know, somebody else who did natilat yadayim is going to feed me. Okay, let's say my hand is in a cast. Okay, I don't have to like wash out my mouth to make it tahor. There's no natilat sfatayim. It's only hands. The forearms are tahor. I can pour water on my forearms to go down to my hands. They're tahor. Now there's a question. Hair on head. That's something else. That's because there's a chazal that they're worried that you might have killed lice, some kind of bug in your head, and now your hands are tameh. But it's nothing to do with actual tahara. How does the water on my hand get pure? We just said the first water in my hand is tameh. I'm pouring water on it, and I'm going to rinse it off. But why isn't the second water made impure by touching the first water? How does it end? How does the tumah end? I should go on. I should be in an infinite loop until my hands are dry on a towel. All the water in my hand. The first water should make the second water tameh. The second one make the third tameh. It should go on infinitely. Okay, the Ravid, who has the great comments on the Rambam, he addresses this question in one of his tshuvot, and he makes a very important point. Shalu Arishonim, the Ravid says, early scholars asked, it's already accepted. The first water is purifying my hands, but that water is now impure. The second water that I pour in my hands rinses it off, and now my hands are pure. But how did the second water purify the water that's on my hand? That water in my hand that's impure should make that second water also impure. It should go on infinitely. And anything, for example, like all tumah tahara, if it goes levels. There's a rishon l'tumah, sheni l'tumah, shlishi l'tumah. Sometimes it goes even revi and chamishi l'tumah. How does that second water not become tameh by touching the first water? So the Ravid says, no, we got it all wrong. Forget tumah in the classic sense of, for example, a person going to a funeral, he's an avatuma, and he touches something else, becomes a sheni l'tumah. No, he says. Ki ikar tumat yadayim shemulutumat v'adayel tumat lichluch. All this natilat yadayim is not about tumat tahara in the classic sense. It's about cleanliness, dirt. Neitzwa ozayah o sharag macholat, as Ms. Straub said, we're afraid your sweat is nasty on your hands. Maybe you killed a bug. But gazul and tumah mayatol lichluch keilu naga b'tumah. They treat dirt as tumah. We want your hands to be clean before you eat truma. Truma is holy. You want your hands to be clean, physically clean, before you handle truma. and we gave to dirt, whether it's killing a bug, as Miss Lynn Jaw brought up, or you changed a tire and your hands are all greasy. We treat it like the laws of Tumah, which have rules. There are strict rules for Tumah that these days they seem odd, but in the times of Beit Mikdash, everybody lived with these rules. Chalila, chalila, chalila. If a Tamei person eats Truma, it's Mita B'dei Shamayim. If a person chalila, chalila, Tamei enters Beit Mikdash, it's karet. They took these rules very, very seriously. So when they wanted people to take physical cleanliness seriously, Chazal put it in the framework of Tumah and Tahara. They said, and Chazal made a rule that everybody's hands are halachically impure, and they have to be cleaned with water. They have to be cleaned with water. And that's why the Mayim Rishonim are there for the Ki'ut. The Mayim Rishonim make our hands clean, and then now you have, okay, you got rid of the grease, then you have nasty water on your hands. You got to rinse that off also. Okay? And that's why you have to have Mayim Rishonim and Mayim Shniyim. First, get rid of the dirt, and then get rid of the nasty water with some more clean water. Wash your hands twice. Okay? That's it. That's why we have first water and second water. And Ravid says it must be this way. Because if it was really being thought of in the sense of classical Tumah Tahara, the second water can't purify the first water. Mikvah water, it's halacha that the 750 liters of water in the mikvah never become impure. That's unique to a mikvah. People come into a mikvah tamei, they get out tahor, and the water in the mikvah is always tahor. My mikvah yet tahor. It's a pasuk in Parshat Shmini. But everything else, tumah just carries on until you somehow stop it. And that's why we're afraid that sometimes the first water can make the second water not tahor. It doesn't mean it won't be tahor. It means it's dirty. We want clean water because we want your hands to be clean. He says, I think this is true and clear that yes, Chazal used the language of Tumah and Tahara. But really, Netilat Yadayim is all about cleanliness. Okay? And how come we need a shear? If Chazal just want cleanliness, how come shearim are for halacha? How come they said revius? How come they don't say get your hands clean? Chazal, again, they applied the language of Tumah and Tara to cleanliness because that's a language that has parameters and it has rules, and people are used to rules. You tell me it has to be your Revi'it, I'll be careful about it. And that's all. It's like the Revi'it, just like a mikvah, halacha Moshe Sinai is always tahor. This water is tahor. Okay, and also the Revi'it of water is also, you can tumble very tiny things. For people, we need the 40 sa'ah. But let's say in the days of, Beit HaMikdash, had to be very careful with metal. Here's a 10 agorot coin. I'll hold it in front of the camera. Tiny little coin. If by some misfortune, I would be in a house and Khalila, someone would die in the house, all the metal things in that house have to go to mikvah. They have to get paraduma, and then you have to toivel it. So this little coin, I'll have to take it to the mikveh that has 750 liters of water. I can find a puddle in the ground, at least within Torah, that has a revi'it of water. I could drop the coin into the puddle, and that's a mikveh for the coin, because the coin will be totally immersed in stationary water. So that's a shear that people could deal with, and that's where it comes from. Okay? And the Chazal said we call it tahara, and that's why they gave a shear of a revius. It's purifying the hands. This way people will take it seriously. So you got two. So there are two reasons for Natilat Yadayim that we know about. One is the Rambam's, and it's also from the Gemara. It's called Srach Truma. We want people to be very careful in handling Truma, so everybody has to do Natilat Yadayim, because we want everyone to keep in mind before they touch Truma, am I tahor? Secondly, is the Ravid's reason. It's cleanliness. It's cleanliness. Okay? And so now we can talk about Natilat Yadayim. What are we doing these days? And this is from the Mishnah Brura. Okay, it's Siman Kuf Samach Bet. Any questions? You all with me? No questions?
No questions.
Okay. All right. The Natilat Yadayim has a lot of technical rules. And again, most of these rules, I think, came from times, plentiful running water is a relatively modern phenomenon in the course of Jewish history. So these days, it's easy to get, this is much more obvious, this teacup, this glass of tea. But so we just do Natilat Yadayim without even thinking too much about the water that we're using. But people used to give it a lot of thought. The reason we're doing Natilat Yadayim is because we fidget. We're not always paying attention. Thank God there was a gzeira of Tuma, unless you purify them with a revi'is of mayim, which is, again, at most 150 cc's of water. It's not a lot. We need two pours, okay? The first pour of water makes the hands pure, but that water itself is impure. And the second time you pour water on your hands, you got rid of the first water. Now, in the red, I put a very important rule. If the really, most poskim agree. A revius of water, think like the Rabbi said, a revius of water is like a mikvah. A mikvah is never impure. Again, people are tummy go to mikvah, they get out of the mikvah, they're tahor. A mikvah is always pure. The same thing is true and for this respects of the revius of water. The revius of water, like the Rabbi said, is a mikvah. It's a tiny mikvah. If I fill this glass with water, I can't tovel anything in it. But for the purposes of Yadayim, which is Drabanan, this glass of water is a mikvah. And a mikvah is never impure. So if I fill this glass with water and I pour it on my hand, then I refill it, I pour it on my other hand, I don't really need that second washing of water, but we do it anyway, because for many poskim, that is the takana of the chachamim. Wash each hand twice. Okay, there's another halacha. This is a hard halacha. In the old days, apparently, again, we have water coming out of a sink, right? We just got water. But in the old days, you get the impression that someone would go to a well and bring out a bucket of water, and that person who brought the water over would then pour it over someone else's hands. And in that case, Chazal say the person having the water poured over their hands has to keep their hands up. Of course, you're afraid that the water that's on my hand will run down to my wrist, and then I'll turn my hand like this, and then it'll just run back down over my hand. And all that water that's tummy went to here, and that's going to go back again. And I wasted the water. So that's a thing that stays with us, that even these days, there are some people hold their hands up when they wipe their hands off and they make the bracha. Okay. So we go down to Shulchan Aruch. Moshe, it's both of Lamala. She took my chutz parak v'yachzuv yitamo yadayim. Okay, and that's only like really possible if someone was pouring water over your hands for you. Otherwise, if we do like this, I mean, then I have to take my hand and go like that. I can't keep both hands up in the air at the same time. The Mishpur makes the observation. Okay. What then? It also works since we're only afraid the water shouldn't go over my hand to my wrist and back down again. If I always keep my hands down. The Gemara says that also works. Okay. And okay. Now, Mishnah Berurah says like this: a whole idea from the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah, so your hands should be elevated. It only works if you have someone washing your hands for you. So I don't know anyone who makes the bracha before drying their hands. Usually we make the bracha, the niguv is part of the mitzvah. As a rule, we dry our hands and then say the bracha. Or as we're drying our hands, we say the bracha. Not before we dry our hands. But I don't know. Okay, there's my email address. You can write to me if you have any questions. And I'll be happy to get back to you about that. Okay, you can get back to me on that. You have to keep your hands up. Yeah, that's right. A little water left and mostly dry. That makes sense. You can. Maybe we'll talk about this after Yom Tov. Okay, you should keep your hands up. Okay, because I don't want the water to go back down. All right. And the Mishnah makes the point. The idea of keeping your hands up constantly for both washings is only if someone is washing your hands for you. If you're washing your hands yourself like we do, obviously you're going to have to tilt your hand down. So like now, and again, most of these Netilat Yadayim cups are pretty big. Okay, I mean, let me just see if I have something metric here to just make the point. Wait with me, please. I want to just measure out. I really want to make this clear. The best bet for the Netilat Yadayim is to do a revi'it on each hand, because we don't have people washing our hands for us. The most machmir shita is the Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish says that a revi'it is, let's go back to page 1. How much is a revi'it? According to Chazon Ish, 149.3 cc's. Let's round up 150. Okay, that means I need 300 cc's of water for both hands. This glass is a not very big coffee glass. This is 300 cc's of water. It's not a lot. Half of this on one hand, half of this on another hand. I'm really good for most of the poskim. Then, based on the minhag, we do wash our hands a second time. But this is 2 mikvahs, as the Ravid puts it, because the revi'us is a mikvah. All you need is this. Half of this on one hand, half of this on another hand. Your hands are really fine for most Rishonim. We do it a second time, you're good to go. Okay, and you don't really have to worry about keeping your hands elevated. If you do revi'us on each hand, you're good. And like the Mishnah Berurah says, most people agree once your hands have a revi'us of water, our hands are tahor, but we still have to do mayim shniyim. Okay, why? Now, even though we do Maim Shneim because of the concern that maybe there's some water that's Tameh, and if I use this cup half on one hand over the other, there is no Maim Tameh. Chazal said in the Mishnayos there should be Maim Shneim. We do Maim Shneim. Okay. Now, why do all these Netilat Yadayim candles have two handles? There's another concern. Now, not all the poskim agree with, but the Mishnah Berurah does bring it down. He quotes a sefer called Pischei, where he says that the handles of the cup, before we start Netilat Yadayim, should be completely wiped dry. If there's damp on the cup, im kain, therefore, im shanot el yado achas nikma maim shel hakli. My hands, let me get into Netilat Yadayim cup. Here's my Netilat Yadayim cup. You see, it all has two handles, right? Okay, so I fill it up. 1, 2. This hand is now quote unquote tahor. If the handles are not dry, okay, because I picked this up, 1, 2, some water will have fallen on this handle by necessity almost, right? If I touch this cup now that's damp with my other hand, which is quote unquote tameh, now I'm making the water tameh again because my hand is touching tameh water. The hand that was tahor is now tameh again. Think about it, right? So the water is what conveys tumah. So my hand that's tameh should never touch water. And my hand that's now tahor should never touch water that was touched by the tameh hand. So yizer she'azana klina guv. The lavachi titameh take over yad. If my tameh hand touches a damp handle, then my tahor hand touches the same handle. Now the hand I just washed became tameh again. Okay, now that is a concern of the Pischei Tshuva. And he quotes a sefer called Shulchan Shlomo, which also has this concern. So you have to make sure that the cup is dry, or at least there's a dry handle for me to take. So I go 1, 2, and this hand, which is dry because I didn't wash it yet, I'm going to put the cup down. Now with my tahor hand, I'll pick up the dry handle because the water went over this handle, and now I have another dry handle to hold on to. I think maybe that's why the Netilat Yadayim cups come with two handles. I don't know. I don't know if that's true, but I looked for something in halacha that I could connect it to. And I think it's not unreasonable to connect it to that. It's not unreasonable. I'll put it to you like that. But the Mishnah Berurah says, I'll see other poskim say as well. There's no such thing when. And we'll see this in the Chazon Ish. That doesn't make water tameh. It's like, I'm going to drink water at the meal, and I'm not saying that all the water in the world is tameh. It's just that there's a halacha of Netilat Yadayim, that the water of Netilat Yadayim has to be handled, manipulated in a certain halachic fashion. But that doesn't mean that everything is tameh. And the Chazon Ish really emphasizes this. And this is what he has to say. This is the Chazon Ish. Okay. Here we go. The Magen Avraham also holds like this, that if the handle is wet and I touch it with my hand, that hasn't been washed yet now, and that water is tamei. Then if I touch it with my tahor hand, it's going to become tamei all over again. Says Zetema. He said this is an astonishing idea. They not betumas kalim, and there's no Beis Hamikdash. All of our kalim are tamei. Forget about the water in the sense that we have no paraduma. Everything is tamei. Until Mashiach comes, we get a paraduma. We don't have tumentara really. But there are rules of tumentara for netilas yadayim. Yes, Chazal said that my hand is tamei, and when I wash less than revius of water, the water goes on my hand, it's going to be tamei. I need a second pour of water to wash off the tamei water. But that world of tumah starts at my wrist and ends at my fingertips. It has nothing to. This kli is tamei anyway. It's plastic. It's not a couple tumah for most poskim. Okay, but if I use a metal netilat yadayim cup, that metal netilat yadayim cup is probably tamei from tamei mace. It's probably somebody went to a funeral. It's probably somebody touched it. It's probably tamei mace. Okay, but we use it anyway, right? We're using metal. We use metal silverware. We use metal silverware. Why all of a sudden are you worried about tumah and tara? Again, the netilas yadayim starts at the wrist, ends at the fingertips. Why are you worried about the netilas yadayim cup? But the idea that the netilas yadayim water that touched the kli that was tamei, that would now make my hand tamei. No, I never said anything like this. Okay, so that's it. So, that's the essence of netilas yadayim. The revius of water, like this cup, is a teeny weeny mikvah. And if you have 150 cc's of water for the chazon ish, which is half of the contents of this cup, pour it once on one hand, pour it once on the other hand. Your hands are tahor. There's a separate din rabbanim of using mayim shniyim, which the Mishbur says we should live by, even if we do use a revius on each hand. Wipe them off and say a bracha. There are some poskim that the Mishbur reports that says try and keep the cup dry, because if, again, the water is in the cup, the handles should be dry. Because if the handles get wet, and after I did netilat yadayim in this hand, I touch water that was touched before I did netilat yadayim, now my hands become tamei again. Mr. Burr quotes that idea. Some people, other poskim say it's also to be found in Shulchan Aruch Harav of Chabad. But the Chazon Ish says, I don't know where this is coming from, because anyway, there's no tumentara anymore that we're obliged to follow. So that's that. Any questions? No? Really? No questions?
Yes, question.
What's a question?
So then, sort of all my from life, I've been doing things wrong because.
Why? What are you doing wrong?
With the netilas yadayim, my
What are you
hands
doing?
are wet. My hands are
What?
wet. My hands are wet. Make the bracha al netilas yadayim when my hands are still wet.
There's nothing wrong with that. You should start wiping them first.
Rather.
Hold on. You know what? I want you to feel, but look, we got time before they shut us down. Hold on.
Thank you.
No, I don't want anybody to be negative vibes, as they used to say in the 60s. I don't want any negative vibes here. Okay, Niguv. I'll read to you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Got this. Okay. Let's go with this. Okay, hold on. All right. All righty. I just want to read to you. I wish I knew things by heart, wherever I think it does. Okay. Okay. When do you make the bracha? Hold on. Just wait for me, please.
I'm holding.
Okay. Hold on. All right. We got this, we got this, we got this, we got this. I didn't think enough about this that would answer this question. Here we go. Okay. As you're wiping your hands, Mishnah Berurah says, you do Natilat Yadayim. Okay. So, I mean, you did it, but you should start say the bracha as you're wiping your hands. It's not wrong not to do that, okay? I don't say your whole life you're doing something wrong. That's like a downer. Okay.
Yes.
We don't, okay. I know he says it more specific. I'm looking for a very specific spot. Oh boy, I wish I knew. Okay. Oh, where did it go? I like to find precise. I like precise knowledge. Okay.
Me too.
Okay, we got this. 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 We talk about. Okay. Okay. Da 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 da. Yeah, da 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 da. Okay. Da 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 da. We got this. 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 Oh, where did you go? Whenever I look for something specific, I can't find it. I don't do well under pressure. Okay. I'm really bothered.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. No, this is very good for me. It teaches me a valuable lesson. I should be better prepared. Kusama. I'll find Kusama now. Okay. Some Kaf Chaim. Okay. Detailed. Okay. He goes into all the details. Kusama. Okay. Okay. Wash your hands. Then you raise them up. This is from Kaf Chaim. He's very much into this. Okay. Okay. When do you say the bracha precisely? Okay. He says Shmenage. You say the bracha when you wipe your hands, but I'm looking for someone who actually says it in so many words. I can say, yes, look over there. Okay. We got this, we got this, we got this, we got this. Okay. You know what, Miss Yavitz?
Yeah.
I think okay. So I skipped the page. Okay. It's in Kuf Samachet. So as you wipe your hands, as you're drying your hands, you say the bracha.
Because I would think that if you're drying your hands and saying a bracha, then you're not concentrating on your bracha because you're busy drying your hands.
As I'm looking for the theory, the drying of the hands is part of the mitzvah because you can't eat with wet hands.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so it's really part of the mitzvah. That's how it's explained. I'm looking for the person who says that. They actually address that point. Okay. Yeah. Up. Here we go. Lamed Zayin in Mishnah Berurah. Okay. Okay. What's this referring to? Okay, no, you got, as you wipe your hand, as you dry your hands, you say the bracha, okay?
Okay,
But B'li Neder, I'll send you, if you send me your email address,
I will.
I posted mine, you can write to me, I'll send you the exact quote, okay?
Thank you so much, Rabbi Fischman.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Okay, so take care, everyone, and I'm sorry
Thank
if you had
you.
trouble getting into the website today.
Thank you, Rabbi.
And I'll
Thank
see you all next week. I'll see you Monday next week. We talk about the Afikoman. It's more Pesach
Oh, great.
subject, okay?
Thank
All right,
you.
bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good
Thank you,
night.
bye-bye.
Bye.